The starting point was based around the inspiration of her life and her dedication, her mission, her whole focus on outreach and the focus of the gospel and how that can affect other people's lives. I mean, the idea for the whole project came through Derek Bingham's interaction with Amy in terms of a book that he wrote. She was one of his heroes, as she's one of my heroes as well. And Derek was someone who had vision and who sometimes put that vision out there. I mean, he was someone who thought in a very positive way about those who took the gospel and changed people's lives with it. And Amy Carmichael was, you know, like a prime example of a life dedicated to service. And Derek thought that this life should be celebrated, that she was a Christian hero. And also Amy believed in seeing the particular in the universal. And what I mean by that is that, you know, the idea of a particular person, an individual, being impacted by the universal truth of God, by the cosmic truth of God, in that God came to us across the universe to where we were. And she believed that that gospel could change people's lives, whether that was off the Shankill Road in Canberra Street, where she missioned for a while, or in China, or in India, where she ended up. This idea of her childhood, her beginnings, was very important to me. This idea of her as a child being influenced by her mother and by her father, of her prayer life as a child, of her petition to God to change her eyes from brown eyes to blue eyes. And in this sculpture, Amy's holding, I see it as a diary, this little book of her life as yet unwritten. But her life as planned by God is in that diary of her heart, of her mind, of the providence that God has for her. And that's a diary of grace, you know, that God has laid out for her life, and that she would carry through and that she would work through until her very last day. Later in life, Amy became part of a group known as the Starry Cluster. And on her hat, there's like a cluster of starry flowers. And it's almost like her mind is being shaped by the impression of grace that surrounds her. It helps give this idea of her looking out. The patterns around it are patterns that maybe she's not aware of how those patterns are going to play out, but that they're being impressed upon her from above. Basically, the process of production starts off in the foundry, making molds of the figure, the model that you've made. It goes through different stages, you know, in the wax process, and then like a kiln process where the wax becomes lost and creates a form and space for bronze to be poured into. Being that process has been used for the ancient Greeks used it, the ancient Chinese, even before that, developed it, and the process hasn't changed. So once the figure goes into the bronze casting process, it's very difficult to change anything. So when I was making the model of Amy, I would have spent 3 times as long looking at the figure as I would have making it, because you were checking it every time you were in there to your studio. Is that angle right, or is this angle right? The last part of that process is the patina process, which is a very exciting process, because bronze in its natural state when it's cast is a sort of goldy brass colour, and it wouldn't survive outside. It would start to sort of change colour and go green. So the idea of the patina is a very important process, where it's almost like a protection that's put onto the surface, and that's done with heat, with flame, and it's done to help open up the surface of the metal, the bronze, and then the patina chemical is sprayed on. And when the metal is soft and open, the chemical goes into that surface, and as it cools, it bonds with it and becomes part of it and helps it to change. And the final part of that process is it's layered with wax. The wax helps protect it from the weather, from the rain, from snow, from frost. I mean, the location for this sculptures is a great location. It's a prime site, and the connection with this area, with the Worldwide Missionary Convention, with Hamilton Road Presbyterian Church. For me, the reveal is about watching other people's reaction. You know, how they see it, you know, how they touch into the narrative, how they interact with the truth of that piece of work, and how that affects them. But also in a way to encourage others, to encourage children, to encourage those who pass by and see it, about this idea of a life that was given, of someone who believed in the particular, in the universal, of someone whose life, in terms of sacrifice, dedication, changed and influenced countless thousands of other lives. So there's this whole big mix comes together, where it's beyond now a sculpture in a sense for me. It's the influence of that sculpture on other people's hearts and minds. Not just for today, for the 16th of December, or for this weekend, but for generations to come.